Thank you for
Chair, would you like me to begin housekeeping comments or you want to wait a little bit? We'll wait a bit. We'll wait a
Thank
bit.
you for participating in today's meeting.
Can we go ahead and please start the housekeeping comments?
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. If attending in person, please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. If translation is provided, click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you're in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby or complete a blue speaker card as available. If you need assistance, please find a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items. Times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on making a public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-2432. That's 909-396-2432. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Gracias por participar en la reunión de hoy. Si asiste en persona, favor de no conectarse a la conferencia telefónica o Zoom mientras esté en el auditorio y silencie sus dispositivos. Si traducción es disponible, haga clic en el icono de globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla para seleccionar inglés o español. Se tomarán comentarios del público después de cada punto. Si se encuentra en el auditorio y desea dar comentario, utilice los iPads ubicados en el vestíbulo o complete una tarjeta azul según esté disponible. Si necesita ayuda, localice a un empleado de South Coast AQMD. Los comentarios pueden ser limitados a un total de 3 minutos o menos para todos los puntos de la agenda. El tiempo límite puede ser reducido para que todos los comentarios puedan ser escuchados. Se mostrará un temporizador de cuenta regresiva en la pantalla para cada comentario público. Se asignará más tiempo para traducción al español si no es simultáneo. Si tiene preguntas o problemas sobre cómo hacer un comentario público, llame al asesor público al 909-396-2432. 909-396-2432. Respete el tiempo límite y favor de tratar a los demás con cortesía, civilidad y respeto. De lo contrario, es posible que se silencie el micrófono o que sea retirado de la reunión. Tenga en cuenta que esta reunión está siendo grabada. Al participar, usted autoriza la grabación de audio y contenido visual presentado durante el evento en vivo y da su consentimiento para el uso de la grabación en el dominio público por parte de South Coast AQMD.
Okay. Do we need to do a new roll call for this? All right, let's do a roll call.
Mayor Locke Dawson. Here. Supervisor Hagman. Mayor Pro Tem McCallan is absent. Supervisor Mitchell is absent. Supervisor Wen. Supervisor Wen is absent. Councilmember Olmos.
Here.
Board Member Padilla Campos.
Here.
Supervisor Perez. Supervisor Perez is absent. Councilmember Rahman is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez. Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez is absent. Vice Chair Caciotti. Vice Chair Caciotti is absent. And Chair Delgado.
I'm here. We don't need a quorum to start, so we will get going. Wayne, do you need to do anything before we turn it over to Sujata? All right, guide us through.
All right. Good morning, Chair Delgado and members of the board. Sujata Jain, Chief Financial Officer. So we'll be presenting the executive officer's fiscal year 25-26 proposed goals and priority objectives, the general fund budget, and staff's proposal. Next slide, please. And next slide. So first, we'll start with the goals and priority objectives. And just as background, we have our mission statement. We have 3 goals and 21 priority objectives. Next slide, please. And so our mission statement is to clean the air and protect the health of all residents in the South Coast Air District through practical and innovative strategies. Next slide, please. And our three goals are to achieve clean air standards, enhance public education, and ensure equitable treatment for all communities, and to operate efficiently and transparently. Next slide, please. So our first goal is to achieve clean air standards, and it has 9 priority objectives. I have a version that has some changes, and you'll see those as strikeout versions, and the changes will be in blue. So you can just see where exactly those changes happened. So the first priority objective is development and implementation of air quality management plans. And the performance measurement is complete 6 rule adoptions and/or actions that result in achievement towards 2016 and 2022 AQMD. Now, there is a slight change on this from the handout that was sent out to you. The last bit says and 2004 PM, but actually it should be 2024 PM plan emission reductions. I just wanted to note that. The next priority objective is secure incentive funding for emission reductions. And the performance measurement for that is to maintain funding received on or before fiscal year 25-26. The number 3 is implementation of community emission reduction plans, or SERPs, for Assembly Bill 617 designated communities. This has 6 metrics, and the first is to have 4 quality community steering committee meetings for each designated community, to have 1 community outreach reduction and engagement event for designated communities, show progress and percentage completion of SERP action items for each designated community. And then number 4 is complete release of CSC and public comments and submit CARB annual progress report. Number 5 is update the SERP implementation dashboard quarterly for the 6 AB 617 designated communities. And yes, so those are the 5 metrics. Going on to number 4, priority objective, ensure efficient air monitoring and laboratory operations. And the performance measurement for that is to achieve acceptable valid data completion submitted to US EPA before deadline. And 5 is to ensure timely inspection of facilities. And this is to complete 100% of Title V inspections. Based on overlapping reporting periods, Title V inspections would be conducted between January 1 and June 30th. During quarter 1 and quarter 2, staff. Oh, sorry. Next slide, please. Sorry. So during quarter 1 and quarter 2, staff will plan, review records and data and conduct preliminary field operations, but inspections will be completed. Goal is to complete inspections, 40% of them in quarter 3 and 60% in quarter 4. And number 6 is to implement permit enhancement program, PEP. And for this, the performance measurement has been changed. And I want to also note one more change over here. The slides that went over said quarterly updates, and it is supposed to be semi-annual updates, which is in line with what the PEP had previously. And the key elements of PEP are going to be reduction in the permit backlog and permitting production rate, development of new paperless online permitting system, and enhancement of the Certified Permitting Professional Program, CPP. Next slide, please. Number 7 is support development of cleaner advanced technology. And the performance measurement here is to fund 10 million of the clean technology projects. Number 8 is incentive programs, and the performance measurement will be initiate implementation within 6 months of grant award. And the last priority objective in this goal is conduct the MATES 6. And here we have 4 performance measurements. Begin monitoring air toxics and other pollutants at 10 fixed sites of MATES 6, and then commence monitoring to evaluate background ethylene oxide levels. 3 is to develop public outreach plan for releasing MATES data and present updates to Mobile Source Committee. So moving on to goal number 2, which is to enhance public education and equitable treatment for all communities. We have 6 priority objectives here. The first is to evaluate the evaluation of low-cost air quality sensors. And for this, there's no change in, next slide, please. Sorry. So the performance measurement here will be to evaluate and post results of 75% of sensors that have reached the market. Number 2 is outreach, and this has 2 performance metrics: conduct and participate in 4 community outreach events, including 1 in each county. And we added conduct 6 in-person community engagement events, such as critical community conversations for purposeful outreach, C3PO, and listening sessions. And number 3 is timely investigation of community complaints. And the performance measurement would be to contact 100% of complainants by the close of business on the next business day. And 4 is social media efforts. And here we have continued efforts to increase impressions and engagements to post and or campaigns with a monthly average of 4,000 LinkedIn impressions, 2,400 Instagram impressions, 8,000 Facebook impressions, and 48 X impressions on post. Next slide, please. And the 5th performance measurement over here is school education outreach. And the performance measurement is similar to last year. It says outreach to 100 K-12 school youth groups and or other organizations in our 4 counties to provide WAM and CAPES curriculum, host 1 Earth Day webinar for elementary schools and 1 for middle and high school, featuring WAM and CAPES curriculum. And the last over here is interagency coordination. And there's no change from last year. And it says conduct and or participate in at least 1 interagency coordination meeting per quarter, continue efforts to improve information sharing and conduct joint investigations with other government agencies, as well as to streamline referral procedures. Next slide, please. So this is our 3rd goal, and it is to operate efficiently and transparently, and it has 6 objectives. So first is to ensure transparent governance, and the performance measurement is to provide 100% of committee and board meeting agendas with material made available to public 1 week prior to the meeting. The next one is also to ensure transparent governance, but this one is to provide 100% of stakeholder and working group meeting agendas with material made available to the public 3 days prior to the meeting. Next slide, please. And the next is to partner with stakeholder groups and business communities. And the performance measurement here is to conduct 6 total meetings with the permit streamlining task force subcommittees and or with permitting stakeholders. And 4 is timely financial monitoring. And the performance measurement here is to submit quarterly budgetary financial reports to the governing board within 6 working days of the end of the quarter for the 1st to 3rd quarter, and then submit for the 4th quarter reports within 6 working days after the end of July. And the 5th is facilitate ongoing engagement with employee resource groups, ERG, and the performance measurement for this is 9 ERG meetings and 1 annual all ERG meeting. Next slide, please. And this is our last priority objective, which is on staffing. And this is to fill positions to reduce vacancy rate to 13%, which is our budgeted vacancy, and initiate the recruitment process such that if all positions were filled, the vacancy rate would be at 13%. Next slide, please. And so with that, we'll get into the budget section of this presentation. And The fiscal year 24-25 adopted budget had revenues at 209.5 million and expenditures at 211.4 million. There have been some amendments throughout this fiscal year, and we estimate to end the year by using $6.1 million from reserve. The revenues are projected to come at 213.6 million and expenditures at 219.7 million. Our proposed budget for 25-26 is 216.5 million for revenues and expenditures at 219.6 million. And we we propose to use 3.1 million from reserves for this budget. Next slide, please. So getting a little bit into the expenditure comparisons, we are comparing the adopted 24-25 budget to the proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget. And we just have the major categories of expenditures here on the slide. Salaries and benefits are going up by about $8 million, which is in the last budget, which we are currently in, is 174.5, and then we are going to go to 183.4 million. Service and supplies are pretty flat at 31.5, and we are proposing those coming in at 32.7. Capital outlays is going down from 3.4 million to 1.5, and transfers out is same. So the total is from 211.4 to 219.6. Our FTEs are increasing from 1,008 to 1,034. Next slide, please. So this is our staffing change slide, and it is a busy slide, so I'm going to just try to match the adds and deletes by department. The overall is a net increase of 5 FTEs. So we'll start with the engineering department. There were 4 adds and 4 deletes. The 4 adds are 2 air quality specialists, 1 senior air quality engineer, and 1 senior staff specialist, but they are deleting 3 air quality engineer 2s and 1 supervising air quality engineer. Then the executive office, they're actually moving some positions there from other departments. They'll have 1 air quality specialist there and 1 public affairs specialist. And these are coming from, one is coming from the community engagement and air program, a program supervisor, and 1 from IM, which is a public affairs specialist. And going to finance, 1 administrative assistant is being added, and 1 administrative assistant confidential is being deleted. In IM, 2 system analysts are being added. In planning, 1 administrative assistant is being added, but then 2 senior office assistants are being deleted. In compliance, 1 air quality analysis compliance supervisor is being added, but then 1 program supervisor is being deleted. And then in technology and advancement office, we are adding 4 positions, 1 contract assistant, 1 planning and rule manager, 1 program supervisor, and 1 staff specialist. That's a net of 5 positions being added. Next slide, please. So the next slide is showing our expenditures by activities. And once again, if we just look at our core activities, which are compliance, monitoring, and permits, those make up 65% of our budget. If we then add in programs, rulemaking, and technology, that's another 25%. And so 10% is for operations, customer service, and policy. Next slide, please. So here are the revenues, and similar to the expenditures, we're showing a comparison of our current budget with the proposed 25-26 budget for the top few categories of revenue. Our emission fees, annual renewal fees, and permit processing fees, those are going up by 3%, which is the CPI that came in. Our annual renewal and our permit fees are going up by an additional 1.5% that is being phased in, which is the second year of phase-in of the 3% that was approved by the board, which is above CPI. And that would be the last year of the phase-in of that 3%. And there are some other fees that are going up, which we will see in our following few slides on Reg 3 fee changes. And those are mostly for cost recovery and mainly for cost recovery. And the other categories like area sources, you're seeing that's mostly flat. Mobile is not going up that much, neither is transportation. And the other is similar to last year. It is a big category. It has many other revenues in it. So it's slightly lower than last year. Next slide, please. So here are some revenue and expenditure uncertainties. Retirement cost, although retirement cost percentage-wise has come down because of PEPRA, the retirement cost itself, retirement rate has come down, but the retirement cost itself hasn't really come down that much. It's kind of flat right now. And this is mainly because we have more FTEs and our salaries too have gone up. AB 617 ongoing funding, it is a little bit of a uncertainty because it gets renewed from year to year. Annually, we have to get the funding from the state. Federal and state funding. Well, federal funding has been, we have to really keep an eye out on this because of what has been happening since earlier this year. So we are monitoring that very closely, and because we have some very big grants over there. Penalties and settlements, these do vary from year to year. And inflation impact on the economy. Although inflation was coming down, there is a lot of uncertainty there, whether it will linger there or go up. And it is something to keep an eye on because it does affect our region and our businesses. Next slide, please. This is the last slide of the budget section, and this has our 5-year projection. And in this, we are keeping the vacancy at 13%. We added some positions in the mid-year, and we are proposing to add 5 more positions here. So our authorized positions are going up from, at mid-year, they had become 1,029. And with the 5 more positions that we are proposing, it'll become 1,034. And most of the fees, like I mentioned, have gone up by the 3%, which is CPI, which we are allowed to raise fees by. And those I explained were being applied to all the fees, and then 1.5% to annual renewals and to permits. And the governing board's policy is to keep the reserves at 20% of revenue. And so we are above that, at least for the next 3 years. And with that, I conclude my section. I'm going to pass it on to our Assistant Deputy Executive Officer, Mike Kraus, to go over the Reg 3 fees.
Thank you, Sujata.
Good morning. Okay, as Sujata noted, we do have a Rule 320. This is the automatic bump up of based on the Consumer Price Index or CPI. This year it happens to be at 3%. Now, while we're not actually changing, can we go to the next slide, please? Sorry. While we're not actually changing 320 because of that, we are needing to change 14 of our fee rules. And to give for those folks that might not be aware, so these rules are broken out into various specific needs. For example, the cost recovery for process of permit, or fees for the hearing board, or if you're submitting a plan. There are some fees that are excluded from this automatic adjustment, things that are set by state law, such as refunding a check or the portable engine program, et cetera. So those would be excluded out of this consideration. Next slide, please. Okay, so as always, standard practice, we do a socioeconomic analysis on the effects of those rules being bumped up. As you can see here, we start out based on some of where we get our actual revenues from. So as Sujata noted, from admission fees, from permit processing, you can see those there. Overall, because of the bump up, we're estimating a little over 3 million on that you would receive from that. But overall, when you're looking at the sectors, which we have here in the pie chart here on the right, you look at the sectors and how they would be impacted pursuant to their actual current regional economic output. And comparatively, it's quite small, less than 0.01%. Next slide, please. In addition to that, we tend to update some of our rules as we go along and implementing our program in general and recognizing things that may need some cost recovery. So I'm going to highlight 3 of these areas today. The first one deals with our community air monitoring systems that we operate. This is for operating and maintenance fee. I'll touch on that in a moment. There's a fee for distributing a public notice under Rule 212. Again, I'll emphasize a little bit more of that. And then finally, a fee for those submitting late their warehouse reports. Next slide, please. Okay, with regards to 1180 and 1180.1, just as a reminder what those rules are. 1180 was our fence line monitoring around refineries. So we had a requirement there to do a monitoring around the refineries and a list of specific pollutants that we wanted them to monitor. In addition, if they exceeded a short-term health impact, it's called acute, we'd have to notify the surrounding public of that. And then, of course, more importantly for us is to detect where the source is coming from and make corrective action. The facility needs to make corrective action. 1180.1 was recently amended, or recently adopted, I should say, by this board just last year. And what that did is sort of expanded the same concepts of the refineries and applied them to some more correlating type petroleum facilities, to, for example, an asphalt facility or a fuel generating facility using biofuels. So those 2 rules not only looked at fence side monitoring, which is paid for by the facility, but you needed a corresponding community monitor. It really helps out in sort of doing the checks and balances of the monitoring data and to kind of help, again, detect and do the investigation of when a source gets exceeded. And so those community monitors are actually operated by the district, and the rule requires those facilities to pay for those facilities. And so there's a cost recovery involved. In addition, once those are established out there as a full operating system, then you have your annual operating and maintenance fees that go along with it. The rule requires us to look at those fees every 3 years as we kind of move along in the operation, get a better idea and sense of the time that it's taking, or equipment, how long equipment lasts and needs to be replaced, et cetera. So we get a good sense of that. So we're now due for that reassessment, which I'll go through right now. Next slide, please. So once again, when in establishing the 1180, we also decided to go back into 1180, the original 1180 rule. One of the interests that was raised by a number of the stakeholders was that while looking at a refinery, it can't really operate without what we call refinery related operations. What I mean by that is they have, let's say, a corresponding tank farm, or they need a hydrogen plant or sulfur recovery. And so these are very critical in their operations, and we weren't necessarily monitoring those, even though they also have potential for air emissions. Maybe not the same pollutants, but still of concern for the community. So we expanded our 1180 rule to add some more pollutants, as well as adding that fence line monitoring. What goes along with the fence line monitoring? The community monitoring. So for those 5 major facilities, well, actually there's 7 refinery facilities. Of those, we added 5 more of these related ones, and we required 2 new community monitors, again, to correspond. And it helps, because if there's something that gets triggered at the refinery, even the refinery wants to know, like, are you catching it in the community? Maybe it was caught in the community, not the refinery. And again, this helps in our investigation. For 1180.1, of the 3 refineries now brought into that, we applied 1 community monitor for each, so 3 more additional community monitors. Next slide, please. So basically what we're asking in the rule amendments is to, we did the assessment of that, looking at everything from staffing to the actual new equipment that's needed, to monitoring that new equipment. Now, obviously, if you got more equipment, if you've got more pollutants, you're gonna need more time to be focused on it. And they have to do everything. They have to not only analyze the data and test that data, vet that data, get that data up online, et cetera, send out notifications, et cetera. It's a lot of work. And so we're looking at increasing those fees in order, again, for cost recovery, not only again for those at the existing facilities, but also for the new ones. Next slide, please. So Rule 212. In Rule 212, we have a requirement that asks facilities that are working on have a project or something, whatever, that they're emitting a pollutant that is basically near a school. And we require then a public notification for the parents of those kids around the school and in the neighborhood as well, of that project. So this process can be time consuming, so that can be confusing because there's a lot of information that we require on the notice, and a lot of facilities are uncertain how to follow through with that. So we provided a service basically to prepare and to distribute the notice. However, it's time to really get that cost recovery for that, because obviously as more people take advantage of that, we need to, account for that time. So we are asking that if, again, this is not a requirement as far as, us doing it, but we are asking that if you ask us to do that service, we will ask for a fee for that. Okay, next slide, please. And then finally, our warehouse rule. So we're all familiar with our Rule 2305. That has a corresponding Rule 316 that basically is the fees to implement the rule. And as you know, in that rule, there's various numbers. We listed them here. There's an annual report. There's a site information report. There's even some notification requirements, et cetera. But as you're probably well aware, we have not really been getting these reports on time, and there really isn't much of response to that financially, at least. And yet staff is spending hours in trying to get these folks, up to speed, get them submitted and all of that stuff. And so here we're just asking again for cost recovery for that work, if they miss their deadline. Okay, next slide, please. This kind of gives it's an overview that we're estimating. I think we're pretty firm about the first ones, but of course we're estimating who could come in and want that service for the public notice notification. And of course, just looking at historical, what has been happening with regards to the meeting the deadlines under the warehouse program. That would be the expected fees and the revenue that coming from that. But again, this is just cost recovery, not sort of built into the budget, in that sense. What Sujata required. Okay, next slide, please. And then finally, just want to kind of give you guys the kind of the scope of the schedule. We've been doing a lot of work so far. The socioeconomic report has already been out in public domain. We have completed the budget document. We've already had our budget advisory committee. Today, we're talking to you guys here in this workshop. We'll have a public consultation meeting this upcoming Tuesday. We will be providing the governing board the public comments from all of these meetings. And then finally, we'll be taking the rules and the budget for adoption next month.
Board members, any questions or comments?
Hi, thank you. For Rule 1180, 1180.1, where did that 22.9% increase? How did you calculate that? Why is it that number?
Sure. I'll break it up basically in three sort of compartments. One of the first things, again, as I noted, that we'll be establishing some new community networks. So in order to do that, you need an air quality specialist to focus on that. You need lab technicians, and you need supervisors to manage. That's sort of basically more FTE. So that's first. Or we can have Jason answer.
Thank you. Jason, Deputy for the Monitoring Analysis Division. So there's a lot of factors that go with the increase. Number one, just the fact of inflation. A lot of the scientific supplies for service supplies have gone up. But number two is the additional requirements for metals and other types of monitors become online. It takes more of those resources to be able to implement the instruments, as well as for these particular instruments, they produce a lot of data. So being able to review the data, quality assure the data, and then be able to represent that visually, working with the IM team to be able to produce that on a website and in real time is a lot of effort and incurs some of the cost.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just have a question. You mentioned, so are the refineries going to have a double increase? It's the 3% CPI plus or is it just one or the other?
For 1180, this
Yes,
is
I'm
the
sorry.
one.
It's just the one. Okay.
That's it for the questions, Councilmember? Yes? Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and appreciate the report and starting the first part of the report highlighting the goals and the coinciding progress. So appreciate that information. I have a couple of, since the presentation was in two parts, the first part that I heard at a concluding slide, I think slide 20, and since we're in a workshop, I just thought interested in the overall perspective regarding the minimum reserve balance. Maybe we can go back to that slide 20 for a moment. So the unreserved fund balance estimated at $84 million, and then the projection and moves down towards 28.6 million. A pretty dramatic decline over the next few years, and I just wanted to kind of get the overall perspective on that decline, and any thoughts of a more optimistic view. Just do we have a minimum reserve requirement?
Yes, board member, we do have a minimum requirement, which is 20% of revenue. So as I mentioned,
Where does that fall there? 13, 18? Okay, so we'd be falling below that in those last 2 years.
the last 2 years of this projection,
Okay.
yes.
And every year that I've been on this board, it looks like this.
Yeah.
And it never gets to, anywhere near it, but that's just my experience.
And in
And we're all
part,
being
we've had-
consistent, and every year I've been on it, I'll continue to highlight my concern that we're looking like we're trending under 20%, just so we're all consistent.
We understand the trend, but as you and the chair note, we use very, very conservative models. And that's why we can show over time that even though we're conservatively estimated 13%, we've never dipped below that. And the projections are always revised upwards as we progress in time. So even though we're being very conservative here, we're very aware of the concern on how this impacts the reserve. In large part, the reserve was built up beyond the 20%. And the thought when the board looked at the package before was, this is what the reserve is for. So these are the things that we're very closely watching. We share the same concerns that you do.
Yeah. And just to I'll get off that topic for in a moment, just any particular point as to why we see that 26, 27, 27, 28 dip, where it looks pretty good the first two, where it's still at 40 and 38, and then we start to see that 32 range. What's happening there from your view to drive that?
Yes, so there are salary increases that are still going to be continuing. We had a 4-year labor agreement. We are in our 2nd year.
Okay.
So there are escalations over there, and that will affect the reserves. And we do, like we said, have some, asks that we cannot ask in this budget right now. So perhaps we will come to mid-year and pull some of that for our capital needs, et cetera.
Okay. And just the list of fees that were the other part of the presentation, the list of fees that were walked through is where does that part of the discussion fall into the letter that was received by the governing board from WISPA late yesterday regarding proposed amendments to PAR 301, Section 8A?
Right, those are just cost recovery for that specific program, so it's outside of that overarching.
Okay, so is that letter pertaining to today's presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah,
I didn't hear us address that in the scope of the fees.
Yeah, we just got the letter ourselves, and we do plan to circle back with them and address those concerns and give clarity where needed or resolve where necessary.
Okay, fantastic. Will we have a chance to have a formal response from staff to their letter and hear about that as a governing board in advance?
Yes, we
Okay.
do that, and that'll be part of the staff report.
Okay, and then were there any feedbacks from the refineries on 1180 or 1180.1, or any feedback on Rule 316 reporting deadline from stakeholders like NAOP?
So the WISPA letter is representing the refineries, so that's their comments, and nothing from the 316.
That WISPA letter, wasn't clear if it was addressing 1180 and 1180.1.
It was.
That's perfect. Okay. And then nothing from stakeholders on the Rule 316 reporting deadline fee?
Nothing yet.
Okay. And had there been any proactive communication to them? Like letting them know that that was happening? In the spirit of the WARE program, here's what's happening. Reporting, do you know that this fee's coming up? You guys are reporting. We're trying to improve that reporting process, I know. So is there, they've been, hasn't
there's a
been
lot of
hitting
work
the
going on
target
there.
on the reporting, as we all know. So has there been any communication to let them know that this fee is going to be?
Yeah, as I noted on that last slide, we have been workshopping this for a couple meetings now. So yeah.
And NAOP specifically, you've heard from?
Again, we have not heard any comments on this.
Okay,
on
I think
house
just
fees.
as a proactive step, it'd be great if staff could reach out to them.
To kind of keep in mind that this fee is only when when they miss their deadline.
And isn't many of them missing the deadline?
I can't speak on that.
Haven't we been talking about many warehouses missing the reporting deadline?
Yes.
Yes. And so this fee would apply to those that are missing the deadline, correct? Yes. So again, I would just respectfully request that we'd reach out to NAOP specifically. Maybe this will spark better compliance. Who knows? It'd be great to hear about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Board members, any other questions? We do have somebody online who would like to speak. Go ahead, board member.
Thank you. For the goal to enhance public education, I was happy to see that. I didn't realize that was a goal, so thanks for that. But I wonder, do you have an organizer or some sort of community liaison that helps lead these efforts?
Apologies, could you repeat your question?
I was wondering, do we have a specific person that is an organizer or some sort of community liaison to sort of help push through goal number 2 of enhancing public education?
Yes, we do. So our program, we have, currently we have 2 staff, Monica Kim, who's the manager, and Ileana Garcia, and she's our outreach specialist for the CAPES and WAM program. So they work specifically on going out to schools and throughout the 4 county jurisdiction.
Okay.
Oh, overall outreach, I apologize.
Okay.
Overall outreach, we do have a team. It's called our geographic outreach team. We have staff who are assigned through the 4 counties in Los Angeles, Orange, San Bernardino, and Riverside. So yes.
2 people?
No, I apologize. That is a team of 8.
Great, thank you. I was just also thinking that I looked at our mission and, our mission is to protect health. I just would have liked to have seen that health aspect stand out a little bit more in our goals and objectives. I know this is sort of big, but if there's any opportunity to sort of give comments about it or where I see where we can enhance that, I just think that's very important for us to really highlight as our priorities and goals.
Very much appreciate your comments, board member. In attaining the standards, the sole mission is to achieve public health goals. What we can do is take your suggestion and make sure that as we're talking about the standards, what it means again to public health, what it means to premature deaths, avoided injuries, things like that. We'll try to come up with something that I think addresses that.
Like that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, we're going to take public comment. The vice chair will lead us through that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And we're going to reduce public comment to 2 minutes. So if you want to testify, please raise your hand at this point. 2 minutes. Our first speaker is Patty Senecal. Welcome, Patty.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. Patty Senecal with Western States Petroleum Association. We did send a comment letter last night, a 6-page letter. We have met with staff last Friday on 3/28 to walk through our concerns, and we'll continue that So the concern for us is the increase for Rule 1180 for the annual O&M cost. It's moving from 4.7 million per year on average to 6.6 million. We look at this as a 42% increase. And then the total O&M cost for the next 3-year period could increase from 14 to 20 million, increase of $6 million. So our concern is about the cost. In our conclusion to our letter, we are simply asking that we recommend that the district postpone consideration of revising the 1180 fees until WISPA and the district so we can work together and work through what is reasonable cost recovery. A lot of it's outlined in our letter, and that the 1180 fees should remain unmodified until we can work through this anticipated cost. And of concern is the cost of adding 16 full-time employees to operate 10 existing community air monitoring stations. So in closing, we want to continue to work with the staff and work through the cost and maybe look at some of our best practices. We do a lot of monitoring within the refineries and just collaborate together. And I just want to be clear, this 1180 fees is in addition to the CPI increase. So there's a lot of cost here, and we just want to make sure that it's appropriate. And with that, I'll conclude my comments. Thank you.
Staff, do you want to clarify or respond?
I think what we'd like to do, neither Susan nor I have met with WISPA. We'll meet with them. And we'll come back to you before the May board meeting.
Okay, thank you. We're not voting on this item today. So I think if we send it back and see what can be done there. Okay, Vice Chair, back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. After our next speaker is Thurl Golden. When Thurl's finished, our public comment period is over. So if you want to talk, please raise your hand now, because once Thurl finishes, public comment is over. Thurl, welcome for sticking around. Go ahead.
Thank you. The one issue during the presentation was the notification letter when there's a problem at a school or a neighborhood as far as a toxic releases, the way I understood it, that there is a recovery cost. Who pays that recovery cost is a question. And if it has to be the school or the residents in the neighborhood, doesn't that put a cooling effect on notification of their safety? Thank you.
Thurl, does that finish your public comments? We'll answer your question.
If I get the question answered, they don't have to do it today, but I'd like to have that question answered.
We can, but are you finished with your public comments?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Thurl. We'll answer that question right now. Thank you very much for your comment. Public comment period is closed. We'll respond.
Thank you very much. Jason Aspel, Deputy over Engineering and Permitting. This fee requirement is very specific to permitting public notices in certain cases where a facility is going to be located near a school within 1,000 feet. Before we permit it, a public notice needs to be distributed at the school. This provision was identified in our permit enhancement program last month to streamline the process. It is an option for facilities to use our staff to distribute the notice. They also have the option to use third parties. So it's just recovery costs for these permitting projects, not anything related to toxic releases near schools.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay. I didn't get any blue speaker cards for this portion of the session, so I'll just do one more round of, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do appreciate the staff taking the extra look at some of these fees. When you see that kind of dramatic increase, obviously clarity and transparency to those costs are very important, especially when we pass them on to third parties like that. And we've all been through many fee schedules over the years of different entities and try to keep them a little bit. Sometimes you drop some, sometimes you raise them, but that can increase. So thank you for taking a look at it. Look forward to your review on that.
All right, last call for any questions. Okay, I'll turn it back to Wayne if you want to close this out.
Thank you, Chair. I think the meeting is officially adjourned, and we'll look forward to seeing you in upcoming committee meetings and next month.
Thank you.